I mean, look, we all come into the world with empathy, right? But unfortunately, it's socialized out of some of us. I would say Branson is a beautiful environment that, because of the professors, the teachers, the administration, the values that are impressed upon students who attend the school, I think there is a beautiful culture of kindness and empathy and otherness. I would say when you think about just like the little threads that contributed to who you ultimately become, that you carry forward with you. I was thinking a lot about this, and when I was at Branson, I started the Conservation International Club with one of my classmates, who was actually a year above me at Branson. And we ended up spending a summer in Costa Rica between my first and second year, working with Indigenous communities. And that really kind of deepened my resolve to be a conservationist, and Branson gave me that support. But unless you put yourself in those situations where you're interacting with people who are different than you, it's really easy in today's culture and climate to be focused on oneself. I feel like it's incumbent upon all of us to recognize our privilege, recognize the hierarchy of privilege, and then to do something with it.
I'm going to turn the attention now to particularly the gender piece, which for some of us, men might be a little more uncomfortable to talk about. But I want to go head on, because even with our leadership team recently, in fact, this fall, we watched the film The Man Card. You may be familiar with this, to discuss how hypermasculinity and white privilege shows up at Branson, to critically examine our own institutional practices.
Yeah.
So in all of your three films, you do an excellent job of addressing that concept of hypermasculinity. And so what I'm curious here is that as you talk about the solution, having more feminine energy, I was wondering if you could speak to and elaborate more to, this is not exclusive to just women.
No,
this is about men, and you even mentioned that about your partner as well, about exhibiting feminine energy. Could you elaborate a little more about that?
Yeah, well, it's the yin and the yang, or the fact that we're all human and we're comprised of the feminine, the masculine, and various sort of, or varying, percentages or of each, or degrees of each. And it's really about what we put out into the world. I think unfortunately, if you think about marketing, they've bifurcated gender to make it easier to put you into a box to get you to buy something, because you're not enough if you don't buy this or that. It's very obvious to me that this is sort of like a result of capitalist thinking and construction. But there's also the patriarchy, right? That, again, the oldest form of oppression is the gender hierarchy, and then you have all these other forms of oppression, which one could argue maybe are worse. But for me, it's really about deconstructing what it is to be a human being. Are you caring? Do you lead with empathy? Do you lean in towards compassion? Are you more invested in the community? Or are you going to perpetuate this sort of rugged individualistic, money and power above all else value system that's sort of been imbued not just in American, Republican ideology, but like the American psyche, the American dream, right? And so for me, it's just about taking a step back and looking at your own socialization as a kid, what you learned from your parents or the influential adults in your lives, and deconstructing the parts that maybe were harmful, and recreating or re-envisioning what it means ultimately to be human, to lead with strength and conviction and care and empathy, and to lean in towards, we're in this together. This is about our common humanity, not just about my individual success. One of the things we do at the Representation Project is remind people of their citizen power and their consumer power. So you don't just vote at the ballot box, which you have to do. There's no excuses for it. But you're a citizen every day, and you are constantly sharing your values with how you operate in the world, and you do get involved in local politics because that's where it all starts, right? And you do try to break bread, and you do try to hear other people's stories, and you do try to, be a vessel and a voice, especially if you're a privilege, for the marginalized and the poor and those who are suffering more than you.